Hey everyone, today I want to talk to you about how to play backing tracks from the Roland TM-2 drum module. This is by far my favorite little drum module. It just goes with me everywhere if I'm on the road. It's just two trigger inputs, they're two dual zone inputs. It plays in stereo, it's absolutely amazing. My favorite feature about this is it has an SD card. And on that SD card allows you to import your own samples that you can play with your triggers or pads. Now, a lot of people use this to add their own drum sounds, their own percussion sounds, even one-shots and samples, but there's nothing that says you can't play an entire backing track from a pad. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, the first thing you want to think about is setting up your backing tracks so that they're ready to play, but also able to give you a click track as well so that you can play along and not get out of sync with your backing track. So what I do is I pan my click to the left and I pan my backing track to the right when I'm creating the track, and then I burn it down to the specs that the TM2 accepts, dump it onto the card, and it's ready to play. Now the reason I do the click to the left and the track to the right is because say an accident on stage happens and the right plug accidentally gets unplugged. If you were playing just your track through the right, you would lose your track to front of house. It's sad, but it's not a big deal. However, if you planned your track to the left and that right came unplugged, it would actually shoot your click track over to the left. It would turn the unit into a mono unit, and all of a sudden your entire audience would be hearing your click track. So rather than lose the backing track, everybody's hearing your click track, and that's, I would say, embarrassing, but that's definitely something you don't want your audience to hear because that's not really something I would call musical. So let's go ahead and take a look at how to import this and how to set it up to play correctly, and then I'll show you some tips and tricks. So here's my mixer here. So what you want to do first is you want to figure out which trigger you want it to play from. So let's just say the head of number 1. So we'll hit number 1 and we're going to go ahead and choose an instrument. From there we're going to scroll all the way to the end till it says SD card, and I actually want to play this timeline. That's my timeline backing track. From there, you want to go over, you want to set your level, and what you want to do is if you have multiple backing tracks, you want to use this level to make sure they're all generally balanced to where you need them to be. Next up is dynamics. You want to take this to max. That means no matter how hard or how soft you hit your pad, it's going to shoot your backing track out at exactly the same volume every time, and consistency is key. Next up is pitch. You want to make sure that that remains at 0. You don't want to add to the pitch or lower the pitch at all, raise or lower. Pan, you want that to be center. If this is off even by 1, it's going to shoot both the track and the click to one ear or the other, so you want to make sure that's on center. Loop, you want that to be off. Next up is mono poly. Now this is really, really important. You want this to be mono. So if this is poly, what happens is if you hit the button more than once, or if you hit the pad or the trigger more than once, it's actually going to trigger your backing track multiple times, like this. And absolutely nobody wants to hear that. But if you have it set to mono and you accidentally hit it multiple times, you're perfectly fine. So make sure that's set to mono. Offset is 0, so that means as soon as you hit the pad it's going to sound. Mute group can be off because you don't want anything else to mute your track while it's playing. Note number doesn't matter. Effects send, you want that to be off. You don't want to send any effects onto your backing track. They should already be in the track. And type, just keep that as through. And that's it. You're done. Now I've also found a really cool trick. I use the Roland BT1 almost all the time on my snare drum. Now this is a dual zone pad, but it only triggers one sound. So if you go into the module and you look on the ring on your trigger setups, it just says BT1 sensitivity. However, you can on the TM2 assign a sound to the rim of the BT1. You just have to trigger it directly from the module. So let me go ahead and show you how to do that. So I have my BT1 plugged into input number 2. So let's go ahead and assign a sound to it real quick. Go to club clap. That's my favorite clap on this. I think I missed it. There we go. All right, and again, I have that panned hard right because I only want the click coming out of my, my left side. All right. Now, to add that backing track to that same trigger input, go ahead and hold the Shift key down and hit the same trigger. Now you should have nothing. Now you're going to set this up exactly the same as we did the backing track before. So we're going to go here to timeline. Where did it go? It won't let me. It won't let me because there we go. It was already assigned to something else. Timeline. Okay. So now, go ahead and double check. We're at 50, max dynamics, 0 pitch, center panned, loop is off, mono, no offset, no mute groups, note number doesn't matter, effects send is off, and type is through. That's it. We're ready to go. So now I can play this bar trigger all day long. In order to fire off that backing track, I just need to hold Shift and hit 2. And there you have it. You can still use the BT1 just like you normally would, but you also get your backing track and you get to use that fourth sound, that fourth trigger sound. You just have to trigger it manually. Thank you so much for watching. Again, as always, if you have any questions or any comments, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and have a wonderful day.